Hey metalheads, welcome to another episode of Metal Academics, Battle of the Bands. Who's up?
Man on the Silver Mountain between Hammerfall and Mago de Oz.
All right, this is getting interesting. We have a kind of recurring cast of characters on the Battle of the Bands.
Yes, I think we've featured Hammerfall many times in many battles, and once before also Mago de Oz in our first Spanish Battle of the Bands. This time though, Mago de Oz will perform spectacularly in English, so that will be an added element of excitement.
Nice.
The song that they're going to be battling out on is called Man on the Silver Mountain. It's probably one of the most famous heavy metal rock song because it dates to 1975.
Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow.
Exactly, their debut single and later the first song on their debut album. So obviously the song that kind of came to define the Rainbow sound, and of course the composition that we recognize as being the mix between Dio and Ritchie Blackmore.
RJD.
Yeah, another recurring figure on the channel because simply. So yes, this is the setup. We're not going to bring in Rainbow. They're too big to compete in this Battle of the Bands, but we're going to have a battle of the covers, basically. Okay. And I think we could start with the Hammerfall version, which appears on their cover collection album from 2008 called Masterpieces. And I think it's, I would call it a slightly closer to the original interpretation than what Mago de Oz has in store for us. But yeah. I'm getting ahead of myself.
I know this one well, but not the Mago de Oz. So.
It's going to be fun. So
I'm a wheel, I can roll, I can feel.
Those guitars are so good, so good, so good,
Yeah.
so good. Yeah, I remember reading in one of the comments to an earlier BOB that one of the guys commented that I think it was Rob Starr who was saying that for him, and apparently he got some backup from other people. Actually, Hammerfall is beating Rainbow at their own game. I don't know if this is blasphemy, but I really love this.
Yeah.
I really love this version.
I don't know. I haven't listened to the Rainbow version in a while, but my impression is that the vocals take more of a lead in the original. I think this is much more about the guitars. Yeah.
Yes, I think so too.
Which is nice. I think it fits. I think Joachim Kenz has a sounds kind of like Dio, right? Just doesn't really have that same lead in the song, I think. So definitely
but
great.
The guitars were just perfect, both in the riffs and as a background in the melody. I really enjoyed it. So maybe this is going to be the favorite, or maybe Mago Deus is going to stun us with their very different interpretation.
I'm open to it.
Mago Deus, for anybody who hasn't heard our previous battle or who hasn't heard of Mago Deus, is a Spanish folk metal, primarily folk metal, heavy metal band. And this particular song comes from an album that is entitled Rarezas, which means rarities. And as far as I could gather, but again, not so much information on the internets on this, so if you know more info, please leave it in the comments. This has been a recording done together with the German female lead singer Doro Pesch, also a pioneer in terms of female metal heads out there. And apparently this is something that they performed also live. And they really made it into their own. So this version is much longer than Hammerfall's. And I would say very different. Very mago. So I think let's dive straight into it and we'll compare notes afterwards.
Hey, bueno, venga, va. Esta tía ha venido aquí para algo. Doro, diles algo.
Oh, it's Doro. That's Doro Pesch.
I'm a will, like you roll, I can feel. I on the dark and the light, with eyes that see inside you. I'm the man on a silver mountain. I'm the man on the silver mountain. I'm the man on the silver mountain. Yes, I am the man, the man, the man, the man.
Totally different.
Very interesting.
New instruments, obviously, people who have seen already our windmills battle recognize the violin. It's a marker of Mago de Oz, but also different types of keyboards, and obviously the flute, and just like a totally different middle passage.
Yeah, very elevate on the flute, very Boston on the synth, and I'd say even very Alicia Keys towards the end there. So Boston meets Elevate, meets Alicia Keys. Interesting. I think that, obviously it's an interpretation, right? It has, I think, maybe a little bit too much packed in there. I think this style would make a great cover for Temple of the King, which is a Rainbow song. It has the flute in there. And
actually, Mago de Oz has done a cover, but in Spanish.
So I see that.
El Templo de la Dios, or something like this. Please excuse my Spanish. Yes. Yeah. So yeah.
I see that would be where this style would be more of a natural fit. Man on the Silver Mountain's more like
more
coming at
powerful,
you. So Hammerfall, obviously, kind of more or less sticks to the script of that song. But for me,
Hammerfall.
Too much going on in Mago de Oz. Too much out there. A little bit too disconnected between the synth and the flutes. I like both elements separately, but maybe not together as they did it. So Hammerfall for me.
I think I'm also going to go with Hammerfall. And the reason why I, in the end, went for them is because I thought it dragged on a little bit too much, that middle section with only the voices. I think it had a point to make it more Mago, but I think it just was a little bit too long. So if I would be the producer, I would say just cut a couple of seconds from there. But again, I wasn't the producer, and maybe some of you think that this is exactly what the song needed to be more round up. So let us know in the comments which way you go. I actually enjoyed to hear Mago de Oz sing in English. Actually, I thought it was very good.
Yeah.
And even though they don't do it very often, when they do it, I'm glad to hear that they do it right. And obviously all the instruments I really enjoyed as well, and recognize that style from earlier songs. But yes, Hammerfall for me too. So 2 Hammerfall votes. Your vote in the comment section. And of course, suggest some other battles that you think we should feature on the channel.
Yeah, and more coming on the way.
Exactly. But in the meantime,
may your swords stay sharp
and your quest end in glory.